Introduction to Photoshop today. Basically, what I thought that we would do to get used to using Photoshop, because we're going to be, most of the projects we're going to do from here on out are going to be in Photoshop with some variation. But I wanted to start by introducing you to Photoshop through the use of editing photographs, your own photographs that you've already taken. So that's why homework for today was to bring in some photos of water in wells in some form. That could be, once again, beaches, ponds, lakes, rivers, any kind of water in wells. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to import your photos to the computers. I have one iPhone charger. I try not to email photos to yourself because you lose information when that happens. So we're just going to have to work through it. Okay. And then I thought that we would follow along with this tutorial, which I think does a really nice job of introducing you to some of the basic features of Photoshop when thinking about enhancing your images. So I thought right now I'd go through one of them and show you what you're going to be seeing so that I can help clarify some questions you might have or reiterate some of the ideas, because I think they just jump into some things. So if you go to Adobe, once again, this was in your classroom. There's I think 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, 5. There's different things that you can do, starting with just cropping and straightening your photo. If you don't need to do that, then you can just go to the next one. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow along right here. So I have Photoshop up. Let's get rid of some of these. No. Hello. I think I'm going to edit that one. I want to keep that actually. So let's see. Can you guys see this okay? I know you can't see some of the details, but we're just going to have to work with it. Now, this looks pretty similar to Illustrator, right? It's obvious that it's made by the same program. What you're going to have is you're going to have pretty much a gray background. Your tools are on this side. Okay? You'll notice that some of the tools that you saw in Illustrator are still there. Some of them are gone. So you're not going to be able to do like the curvature tool. You're not going to have shape builder tools. You're not going to have 2 types of selection tools, only one. All right, but just like in Illustrator, if you control-click, there are different options within these tools. Okay, over here on the right, in the bottom right corner, you're going to see your layers. These are going to be even more important than they were in Illustrator. Everything that you do in Photoshop, every new edit you make, you should make in a new layer. We're going to talk about this right now so that you can always go back in time or hide or change. Okay, we always want to not work destructively. We want to work by adding on new improvements so that you don't affect where you started. Does that make sense? Because that's kind of the point of Photoshop, is that you can take risks and try new things without it being permanent. Like if you were drawing or painting or something, then it's pretty permanent unless you can erase. It's nice to be able to just kind of go back in time. Up top, you're going to have different windows, just like in Illustrator, different effects, but they're just going to be different. They're going to have different effects to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to File, Open. When you import photos from your phone, you'll want to save them to your folder on the desktop or whatever you have. And then when you go to Photoshop, you're going to do the same process. File, Open, to find an image. Let's see. Is this my gecko? Yeah, I'm going to do that. So now what it'll do is it'll just send this directly to Photoshop. So I'm ready. I'm ready to start. Okay. Let's see what the tutorial is going to have us do today.
In this video, you'll learn to improve the lighting and color in your photographs using adjustment layers. These special layers instruct Photoshop to make the change on a completely separate layer. This not only protects your original photograph, it gives you maximum editing flexibility too, as you'll see in this video. Let's add an adjustment layer to make this image brighter and to add some punch. Click the half black, half white circle at the bottom of your Layers panel and choose Brightness Contrast. Notice the new adjustment layer in your Layers panel and how it's highlighted, which indicates it's active.
All right, so basically over here, there's going to be a little rectangle with a curved corner. That means new layer. You saw that in Illustrator, correct? Okay, when you click that, it just makes a whole new layer. We don't want to use that. What we want to do is we want to create adjustment layers, which are layers that are made specifically to affect the base layer. Okay, I'm going to reiterate right now that in the world of layers, I'm going to write some stuff down probably, whatever is on top is what's going to show. Okay? So it's like a sandwich, I guess. Right now, the bottommost layer right here is your background. This is the image. Everything that you build up from here is going to have dominance. It's like a hierarchy. What's on top is most important, what's going to show. What's underneath is going to either be affected or hidden by. Right now, everything is going to affect this background layer. It's almost like you're putting kind of transparent screens on top of your image every step of the way. Does that make sense? Okay, we don't have to break that down. So instead of just making a new layer, we're going to make an adjustment layer. See how there's a little trash can here? I can delete that layer. You're going to, there's a circle. Half of it is black, half of it is white. When you click on it, it's going to provide you with a series of options. Brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, vibrance, hue and saturation, color balance, fun things. First, I think that the tutorial is telling you to do brightness and contrast, so we're just going to start there. There's a lot of ways to adjust brightness and contrast in photos. We're just going to keep it simple because you have a lot of stuff to learn today. Okay? So when we click on this, you're going to have one, this says brightness, this says contrast. You'll see when you go to do it yourself. What this is going to do is, and it's very similar to a lot of the editing tools you probably even have on your phone or things. This is going to make the whole image brighter, the whole image darker, the whole image brighter, the whole image darker. Basically, what your goal is editing photos at this point in time is to make your photo the best it can possibly be without it looking like it was edited. You want to hide your tracks, okay? Because I'm sure you've all seen like an overworked image before. It's like really like blown out, and it's kind of uncomfortable to look at. You want it to look like it's like, oh, I just took this the other day. Isn't it amazing? Okay, so you want to try to hide that. So I'm going to lighten it a little bit, maybe not. Contrast, on the other hand, is going to make the lights lighter and the darks darker, right? Creating that contrast between them. So if I drag this up, see how it's autumn. It's a really fast way of making your photos look more dramatic, right? Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's going to be kind of gray and muddy. You can also, in this layer panel, there's a button right here that says auto. You can click that, and it'll do what it thinks you should do. So it thinks that my lightness is fine. It just needs a lot more contrast. Okay? Does that all make sense for everybody? Just like in Illustrator, if you want to see where you were before, you can hit this little eyeball. Remember, the eyeball hides things. See where I was? It's already getting better, huh? Yeah. Next one. I'm going to skip around a little bit.
The Properties panel that opens layer, and the layer is just the sliders to your liking panel. So here's our length.
Okay, this is interesting. What she's doing right now is she thinks that this might be a little bit too dramatic. There's a little bar right here that says opacity 100%. If you drag this down, it'll make your screen less dramatic as well. So play around with this. Today I want you, and when you start working on these, your images, I want you to follow along the tutorials, but I also want you to play. I want you to see the sliders, put it to the max, bring it back, see what happens when you mess around with things, see what you like, okay? Now, the next thing I believe that you're going to come across is hue and saturation. Ooh, does anyone remember what hue means? Color, right? It's the actual color. What does saturation mean?
Yeah.
You got it. Remember dull or light? So I believe, which I know is true, if you go to make a new adjustment layer right here, there's one called hue and saturation, okay, which is what she's going to tell you to do next. If you click on this, you get 3 bars. This one is called hue, has like a rainbow. You can literally change the base hues of the whole entire image. So if I slide this through here, watch what happens. I'm going to start getting kind of psychedelic. Have you ever seen images like that where they look very psychedelic? That's people playing with hue. I was actually playing with it on this one because I thought it was interesting. I think if I get rid of this hue and saturation layer, that's what the image was originally. And then I played around with it a little bit because I thought it was cool. So hue, you probably don't need to play around with that unless maybe you want to, maybe it enhances your photo to have it be a little bit more blue or not. what we're going to want to play around with is saturation. So if we learn that high saturation is really, really colorful, low saturation is really, really dull, what do you think is going to happen when I put the little slider all the way to the left down here?
Very, very dull.
Very, very dull. Even to the point where your photo then turns black and white. So this is an easy way to make your photos black and white if you want them to be. Okay?
It looks cool, black and white.
They always look very official, like professional, right? Classic. Other hand, if I bring it all the way to the right, it's going to get really, really, really bright until right around now, blown out. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
You never want this to happen. It doesn't look good. It's kind of fun, but usually we want to kind of move past this stage and get to a point where it still looks realistic. So now look at how gray my image looks like where it started, now that we've seen how bright it can be. So I'm going to bump it a little bit, maybe to like there. How's that look?
That's good.
Yeah? Okay. It's all about subtlety. What else is she going to tell you about?
While the image looks a lot better, the colors could stand some boosting. Right until the image looks good to you. Go ahead and close the Properties panel by clicking the icon at upper right. The image looks even better, though the grassy area and some of the more colorful houses now look a little too vibrant.
Do you see that? Do you see how some of that photo needed that pop, but since those colors were already bright, now they look they grab your attention? She wants to settle them down. So we're going to listen because she's going to tell you about masks. Has anyone ever used a mask before? They're very cool. Maybe?
To fix that, we'll hide the adjustment from those areas using a layer mask, which is the white thumbnail that comes with every adjustment layer. Since this mask is filled with white, the adjustment we made is visible across the entire photo. However, by adding black to the mask, the adjustment can be hidden in those areas. To hide the adjustment, make sure the mask is active, which is indicated by the white brackets on the Layer Mask thumbnail in the Layers panel. Now grab the brush tool from the Tools panel, and in the Options bar, click the Brush Preset Picker and choose a soft edge brush. Use the size slider to set the brush tip pixel size to approximately 150 pixels for this image. Press Return or Enter on your keyboard to close the Brush Preset Picker. Now take a peek at the color swatches at the bottom of your Tools panel. The foreground color swatch determines what color the brush tool uses. When you have a layer mask active, your only choices are white, black, or gray. So if the foreground color swatch isn't black, go ahead and reset them to their default values by clicking the tiny icon at upper left of the color chips, and then click the curved arrow to its right to switch them so black is on top.
Just like in Illustrator, how that's where the colors were.
Now mouse over to your image and brush across the areas in which you want to hide the adjustment.
See what she's doing?
You can change brush size as you go using the left and right bracket keys to the right of the P key on your keyboard. For example, you can tap the right bracket key to increase brush size or the left bracket key to decrease brush size.
I'm going to tell you the same thing, and so when you see it again, then you can understand what she's saying. So basically, what a mask is if you think about each layer as a screen, what a mask does is it covers up a part of the screen. Or you make the whole thing black and it cuts out a little like view hole of that screen. Okay, what does that mean? So over here you have your image. Over here in the bottom right, you have your image, and then you have your two adjustments, right? These little white boxes right here, imagine this is your masking screen. This is the screen. If I want to block out just a little area of that, I make sure that this white box of that layer has this bracket around it. If it doesn't, see how it moved over here now? Now it's back over here. Okay. What I do is I take my brush tool with, just like you said, either black or white. I can color over the image, and instead of coloring onto the image, I'm actually filling in the screen. It's going to make more sense when I do it. So have you ever, I'm sure you all have seen those images where one part is color and another part is black and white? Okay. That's done by, or can be done in different ways, but that's done by making a layer, an adjustment layer that makes the whole photo black and white, but then hiding one area that you want to still be color. Okay. Which adjustment layer did we already use to manipulate whether things are black and white? or brightly colored?
Saturation.
Hue and saturation, remember? Hue means color, saturation means how bright or dull. So if I now make a new hue and saturation layer, you can make as many as you want. You can delete them, hide them, do whatever you want. Let's now say that I'm going to make this black and white, okay? Remember, whatever is on top has precedence. So even though I made this one, and now I'm down here again in the middle, even though I made this one color, since this is on top, the whole image is black and white. Does that make sense? If I hide this, I can see the color again. If I bring it back, now it's black and white. What I want to do is I want to make my background black and white, but I want to make my, what is that? Chameleon. I want to make my chameleon colorful, okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, since my whole image right here is white, I'm going to take a paintbrush. I'm going to make sure that it's black. Whatever's in the top left corner here is going to be your color. And I'm going to color over it. Now, my cursor is very small. You see how little it is? That'll take me forever. So I want to make it bigger. You can either go up here to the top left and change the size, or the shortcut, this is your first shortcut of the day, brackets. These ones right here, those little bracket guys, see those? Okay. If I use the bracket on the right and I hit it, see how it grows? Bracket on the left makes it small. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to color in my iguana. I'm going to start and see what happens. There it is. Now, for your poster, for your photograph, maybe you don't want to make some black and white and some color, but maybe there's like one area that you want to change the color for. So maybe you want your water to be really, really blue, but you don't want the rest of your image to be really, really blue because you want to highlight the water. So you could apply this to that situation. Does that make sense? These are all just tools that you can apply differently to your image, no matter what, depending on your intention. Okay? Now look over here. See that little blackness? That's my iguana that I just drew in. So what's that telling me is that this hue and saturation layer is applying all the area that's white. The black is being covered. Does that make sense? Or you could think of it as maybe I cut out that little iguana to see through. Good? Feel good about that? All right. Once again, if I want to hide it, if I decide I don't want it anymore, I can hide it. If I want to delete it completely, I can, while this is selected, I can use my trash. Okay? Anything else that she's teaching us about? She's teaching us hue and saturation, and then she's teaching us right now how to do masking. Excellent. You guys will feel really confident at this stage of the game. I'm not going to go forward with the other ones. I just wanted to make sure that I could reiterate masking because it's really confusing sometimes if you're not used to it. In this video, she's going to teach you how to use the healing spot or patch tool if there's anything that you want to like get rid of, make disappear. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. And then it's going to tell you how to make some, maybe add creative color effects, adding different filters, playing around with that. Okay? Always, 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 always keep your background image, your starting image, locked. You don't want to edit the image itself. You want to use layers so that at the end of the day, if you decide, I hate it, I want to go back to where I started, you can just delete your layers and you have your image to work from. We call that not working destructively. We don't want to work destructively. Okay? Does anyone have any questions about this? Is everyone excited to get started?
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone need my phone charger? Does anyone else have a charger with them? You do? Excellent. So we can spread that around too. Let's get started. So like I said, this